Hi, Des here, and I figured I'd go ahead and make another video while I'm waiting for the one that I just did to do its whole thingy thing turning into a video, and then I'll have to upload it kind of thingy thing. So, yeah, if you watched the last video, which was a video response, you'll notice I'm wearing the same shirt, which you can't really see anyway. And you'll notice that I'm still talking nasally. Not as bad. I don't know, maybe the medicine just kicked in a bit more. I'm not as clogged as what I was. But, I decided for the first not video response video to go ahead and kind of talk about, I guess in a way, my channel title, to be honest, which is also like my Tumblr URL and that kind of thing. And it's basically just kind of like my how tarot reading when it comes to love is for me, because I'm Aro and not not Aro. I'm not aromantic, or I think that's how you pronounce it. I'm aromantic. So I thought that I can maybe talk about that and my views on that kind of stuff when it comes to tarot. And I could always do like another Aro video. I don't know, like this could just be the Aro video. Too, but I mostly just want to try focusing on tarot unless I get freaking, off topic. And I was gonna like write down maybe the points I wanted to talk about, but I was like, I'm just gonna talk. Just make it a talking video where I just stare at the camera and just talk. I also pulled some decks out with like their own versions of like 2 of these cards. I don't know. I think just in case if I wanted to reference any decks, I have just 6 decks right here, just in case. But basically, I'm aromantic. I'm also asexual too, but this is about being the asexual stuff. It kind of deals with this. I'll just mention both, but more people know about being asexual, which means that essentially I don't feel sexual attraction to anyone. And, we've got a flag and stuff, and it's not really talked about, but it's still talked at least a bit more than being aromantic. And when you're aromantic, you don't experience romantic attraction. And kind of like being aroace, which, aromantic asexual is kind of like the stereotype. Sometimes people actually are the stereotype, like moi. And what I mean when I say Aro is short for aromantic. Some people say like Aro. I just kind of say Aro, so it rhymes with tarot. And then ace is the shortened form of asexual. You just say I'm ace, So aroace is aromantic asexual, like shortened. And it makes reading kind of interesting, and I'm curious on how it's going to end up being when I read for more people, because I know that most readings are about relationships and stuff, and it's something that when romantic and even sexual attraction I don't experience. I used to think I did, and then I realized that I didn't, and so it's kind of different trying to read for that stuff when you don't experience. It's kind of like if someone asked you to do a reading and it was about something about their heart condition or something, but you're not a doctor, so you just don't know. You can just give them the best advice possible. It's kind of like that, but I guess you could say maybe you're some kind of doctor, so you understand it, but or maybe you're studying it, or like a student. I guess I don't know how to explain it. It's I kind of get it, but yet it's something I don't experience, so it's harder. more so with the sexual attraction, though, like, I don't understand sexual attraction at all. Like, it makes no sense to me. Romantic attraction, we're surrounded by romance, so I can kind of figure it out by what I've seen. But yeah, so it's kind of different. I've done readings that deal with romance before, and sometimes I question if the reading is as good as I think it is, or if it's just because of my lack of experience, because I haven't really had many readings come in getting asked to, because I don't really advertise for it. Right now it's just kind of like there so I can get more practice kind of thing, and one day I'd like to I don't know, actually do it for something, you know, like side career kind of thing. My actual career I'm going for is, right now I'm in college to for game art and development, so, you know, but like as a side job thing, I'd love to do like tarot stuff. That'd be freaking awesome. But I don't have a lot of experience with people I don't know. When you know someone, it's definitely easier to give them advice with tarot than someone you don't know. So I wanted more experience with that. But anyway, off topic. I do that a lot. Like I've had the couple I've had. It's kind of like will I get back together with my boyfriend? Is my boyfriend thinking about me? Which I don't feel weird answering questions like that. It's more so with my advice giving, because I think the one person was actually the same person. They were on Anonymous, and I think 2 of the readings I did was the same person. And then I did another reading for someone else that was also asking about the kind of stuff. And both the times it came out as being the relationship kind of seemed to restrict you. If you wanted to get back into it, this is how you do it. But it's kind of like a forewarning. Oh, what card came up? I was using the Wild Unknown, and it was the 8 of Swords actually came up as kind of as one of the cards. And it was very much kind of like you're restricting yourself with it. You know? You're restricting yourself, you can't be free, and you're doing it to yourself, and it almost seemed to be from the relationship, and you trying to be back into the relationship instead of like letting yourself free, you know, coming out of the shell and being able to spread your wings. You're constricting yourself. And obviously I wrote, and I'm like, I'm not trying to be rude or anything. Like, this is just what the cards are saying. Because I was afraid that, you know, it's like, you know, yeah. So, like, both the times I've done that, it came out more like that, and it's kind of like, am I reading, is it coming out like this because I'm Aro and I don't have any romantic experience? Or literally, like, is it because it's like their relationships were constricting? Logically, it would seem like the relationships and them wanting to be back in it are constricting, if you think of it from a logical point of view. Since, you know, it ended for a reason, and then, like, you're the one that wants to get back in it, but still it ended for a reason, and logically it would make sense that constantly thinking about it and wanting to be back in it would be, you know, 8 of Swordsy. But at the same time, sometimes it makes me question, you know, if it's good or not. But that's just kind of like that. I have with another example of it, different, this is different circumstance kind of thing. I've done a soulmate spread. Should I just go into that? I'll just go into the soulmates then. I have a soulmate spread, and I've done it for me and my mom. I don't think I did it for my brother. I don't think he asked me to. Yeah, I don't think I did it for him. But I did it for my mom, and I kind of came up with it on the spot. And she was just really curious on how well the reading would go. It was almost like a test, really. Oh, she kind of thought it was fun. I was like, ooh, test. Because about, I don't know, probably like 20 years ago, I think, because I was like a baby, you know, like toddler baby thing, you know, thingy thing. I was a thingy thing. And she got it about 20 years ago, and it was the only reading she ever got where they actually talked about her soulmate, because usually it's like who you're going to end up with next instead of like a soulmate. And this one actually talked about her soulmate. She had it written down, she took notes during it, and she kept it. And they were in a room, and she grabbed them, and she's like, I'm curious to see what you would say if you did a soulmate reading for me. So I made one, except for, I took it further, the whole describing thing, because I didn't really know how that worked except for personality-wise. That was one card, and then I kind of like how you beat and stuff like that were the other cards. And it was really interesting because basically a court card came up, and it was the Queen of Swords. And so I was telling Mom how, like, I interpret the Queen of Swords, and she was like, that's pretty much how it was. And she read the piece of paper, and there were a couple things I was like, oh yeah, that's another Queen of Swords thing that I forgot to mention, like there was 2 of those, and I'm like, oh, Queen of Swords is kind of like that too. I'm not that good with court cards, so. But yeah, it was interesting about how it was like literally like the exact same description. The only difference is, I can't be like, his eyes will be blue. But yeah, so then it's stuff like that though that makes me question, not question, because it's like, I could do that to my mom who's straight. Of course, then there's the same time, though, that deals with soulmates, and to me, soulmates aren't necessarily romantic. Like I said, I did a soulmate reading for myself, even though, I'm aromantic. And that's because I believe that soulmates are not necessarily romantic. It's more kind of like a connection that you have with a person, like, throughout your different lives. You're always going to end up meeting that person again. And sometimes you can do that with people, even if they aren't your soulmate. I think it's just a really connectional bond when it's your soulmate. And so it's not necessarily romantic. It can be platonic. I feel like it could even be siblings, Like, you don't know who you were in past lives. According to the one psychic my mom always goes to, me and my brother, we were married. I was the husband and my brother was the wife, and to be honest, it makes so much sense. My brother was like, I can just imagine me telling you to pick up all your shit. And I'm like, same. He'd be telling me that all the time. This is just a funny example. But, yeah, so it's kind of like, that was soulmates. I feel like you could have a platonic soulmate. I feel like you can have more than one soulmate, because if you think about, polyamorous relationships, it would make sense if you could have more than one soulmate. I feel like some people probably only have one, and then some people might have more, which is, why they'd be polyamorous and stuff. And sometimes the relationship and your feelings are just platonic, but you're still soulmates, because that's the thing with it, is love is just love. It doesn't matter what the attraction kind of is there. If I loved someone, my love for them would just be as powerful and genuine as someone else's love for them, even if that someone else had romantic attraction with it. Like, some arrows don't use the term. I use the term, I'd fallen in love once, and, it was literally like the feelings of falling in love. It's just there was no romantic attraction. So, yeah, it's just as powerful. And so, dealing with the whole soulmate and the feeling kind of thing, which I think I explained the soulmate stuff good. But yeah, it's just as powerful, and because of the lack of attraction, be it there's still love, whenever I do readings, it ends up being more of a general love. Which, obviously when people talk about this stuff, they're like, love, love. But are they really just talking about love? I don't know, maybe I could just... Did any of the ones I pull out have anything, for example? No. No. Oh, yes, one of them I did pull out. I think a good example could be maybe, I just have all these decks in my hands now. Like, maybe, like, the Lovers from the Shadowscape. Like, it's blurry, but, you know, like, they're kissing. Like, obviously, like, platonically you could kiss. I mean, it's usually seen as more of a romantic thing now. So if you're reading it as love, yeah, it's love, but it's kind of a bit more romantic love, you know. Versus, like, I really like the Two of Cups in here for this deck, and there's just a heart, and, like, they're kind of embracing each other. So, like, that could be platonic, that could be romantic, that, you know, it's just love. So, for me, it ends up being kind of, like, generalized, because I can't exactly, I just don't experience it. An example of this would be, one time I did a reading for my friend, because they were just really nervous about their situation with their boyfriend. Because of the whole, as you could hear, I'm using, like, they, them, and this friend is basically, like, non-binary, and they go by, like, they, them, and, like, there's the whole gender thing going on. And so, like, the boyfriend was kind of, like, you know, like, curious about the kind of stuff, you know, is known for being straight, but I guess it sounded like maybe bi-curious. And then they were nervous because, you know, it was a whole thing like, oh, well, like, they might think they're straight with me kind of thing. What if they broke up with me and, like, they found out they were gay and they just wanted to be with a guy? That talk was more, I was in the other room, and I could hear it. But then, like, later that night, we were just kind of messing around with tarot, and I did a reading. But what did I ask about, like, the, love, like, boyfriend kind of thing? No, it became generalized, and I basically asked about love, and how their love was. I think I actually didn't even ask that. I think it was just a general reading from one of the tarot books that I was using, and it came up, and the card that came up was the Lovers. So you'd think, oh my God, your love, like, you know, it's just it wasn't really romance for me. For me, I read it as, like, your partnership is really good, and there's a really good connection there, you know, because I can't with thinking about the romance kind of thing. And this, usually the Lovers kind of comes up more with choice a lot too, but for this one kind of felt more like partners. And I feel like the whole partner thing and me thinking of it as being partners is actually really influenced by the one reading I got. I've only had, like, one reading in person where the psychic actually used tarot cards. And I noticed the Lovers came up, and I was thinking, oh boy, you know, I'm Aro, you know, but romance wasn't mentioned at all, love wasn't even mentioned. It was like, for your job, you'll need a partner. And I was like, yes, that makes so much more sense than what I thought you were going to say. I don't know anything about tarot at the moment, so that was, like, before I got into tarot. It was, like, that reading that kind of helped convince me to get into tarot. But yeah, so, like, that's why partnership really comes up, which, literally, like, that's why I love this one, because, like, they're dance partners. It's perfect. You could even look at the Lovers I did with my tarot. I used the song, Vegas. And so there's Elvis and Paul, I can't talk, you know, like, you got the Elvis, and all 4 band members are getting married, and I put Jack in a dress, But yeah, and, like, my Two of Cups, for instance, is just, they're holding hands, and they're kind of blushing, because they have feelings for each other. Is it romantic? Actually, no, because, it'd be one-sided. The character in this suit's supposed to be kind of, like, based on me. It's not the me in the deck, but it was, the cups kind of became personal in the sense of that character kind of became a bit based on me, and then this one with the scarf is based on one of my old friends that did have feelings for me, and I had feelings back, but nothing ever happened, which was a good thing, because it was after that, and with all that kind of stuff, was when I figured out I was Aro. So yeah, it's very interesting, and I get so curious when it comes to how readings are going to go for in the future, because everyone wants to know about their love life. And I read it as love. Love. General love. Not romantic love. Not sexual stuff. Definitely not sexual stuff. I don't get that. So, yeah, it's just something that I'm curious on how the future's going to be with that kind of stuff, and just how I feel like my readings are going to be shaped when it comes to giving advice. Because I've had, like, 2 boyfriends before. One I only saw in person a couple times because it was mostly over text because they lived half an hour away from me and we were freshmen and didn't know how to drive and he lived in a bad neighborhood. And then the second one didn't even last a full month. I hate him. And in total I only went on 1 date with the second one that I planned. Which was just go to the mall, play at the arcade, and look around the shops. Maybe I should have realized I was Aro then. But yeah, so I guess that's pretty much it. Like how I just said, I'm just curious on how the future will be when it comes to reading, and I wonder how anyone else, if anyone was curious on watching it, how anyone else kind of reads love. If the romance kind of attraction kind of goes into the readings, if you can just tell the difference. If when you're doing a reading you just do it as love, are they separate? Is this a case of whenever people think of love, they're just thinking of a romantic attraction because that's how society is? I mean, literally, just looking at my tarot cards, I'm like, well, 2 of Swords and the Prism of Visions, I'm like, it's a guy and a girl. Oh my god, they must be in love. And I'm thinking, Des, why are you thinking of romantic attraction? Is this just because they're in a guy and a girl and they're smiling at each other? Oh my god, Des, why are you doing this? You know? Society kind of does that thing with mine, you know? Same with, like, even just, it's a guy and a girl. Oh my god, they must be in a relationship. It can't be, like, the 2 girls, you know? Like, you don't feel that way about that, like that, you know, heteronormity. It's you know, it's that kind of stuff. So I'm kind of curious just to see how it is for other people. Just because, like, I follow people that are Aro, and I follow people that like tarot. But I don't know if any of the people I follow are both. You know, I think some of the people are ace that I follow on Tumblr, but I don't know if any of them, I don't know any people that are into tarot and are also Aro. So I'm just curious on if there's any, you know, with the Aro stuff and people that are all romantic, as, you know, I think that's how you pronounce it, saying. So just kind of like how it is for people that are Aro, essentially is what I was saying. And people that are Aro, you know, just curious. But anyway, let's see if I can end a video right this time. These are my thoughts from Des, and I am logging off. Goodbye.